What's up, guys? It's C-Roc. You're listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with Mike C-Roc. And we are sponsored by Nations Lending, Home Loans Made Human, helping people finance homes across the United States. And if you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell or needs a refinance, just reach out to your boy C-Roc. I got a great team behind me. We'll take care of you. And I just want to thank Nations Lending, the marketing department, and the team there that supports us and this podcast. They helped us get set up with the podcast with the great graphic designs, the logo, and all that. And great supporters of the What Are You Made Of movement. So those of you who listen to previous episodes, you know my story. It's all about using your past experiences to break through future barriers and hard times, or jump to the next level if things are going great. And I've done that in my past, and I want to bring people on that can share their stories of doing the same thing so that you can listen to this, get some content from it, and help yourself succeed in the future. So one of my favorite people, today's guest, Jarrod Glandt, President of Cardone. And, I'm again, this podcast, I don't know if you know this, Jarrod, but it's only been going on for about a month. Mm-hmm. And I was going to start with some people that not a lot of people know, but that had good intentions.
Like me.
Yeah, well, you're known. You have a good following. But people that had good intentions and needed to get their word out, and I felt that they would have a good story. But then I started thinking, well, why not just start going after people that are more known? And the mentor program that we're in, that's what got me thinking that way, which we'll talk more about as we go. So without further ado, Jarrod, I'm going to let you tell your story of what you're made of, and as far as your bio and all that goes, I'll leave that up to you. So what are you made of, Jarrod Glandt?
I am made of 10X, but it wasn't always like that. I had always kind of grown up in a sales environment. My dad, worked in retail. He was a general manager of motorcycle dealerships. And so I was always around the store. And when I was old enough, he put me to work. And so I started selling motorcycles and jet skis and all kinds of cool stuff like that. And, that just kind of led into an advertising sales job that I had working for Auto Trader, actually. And the interesting thing was I was working in the dealership, and the regional rep for Auto Trader came in because my dad spent a bunch of money with him. And she was saying how they had just got bought, and all of the vets that had been there for a really long time were leaving to go start a competing company. And they were all making a brick of money, like $300,000 a year, $400,000 a year, working for this old owner. And we're working like till 2:00 in the afternoon, and then they were all bailing. So new management came in and killed that. And she goes, look, he's not going to make that kind of money here, but he could probably make $100,000. I was going to college at the time, so I was working and going to school. Mm-hmm. So dropped out of school, went because my dad was like, hey, he's got a 6-figure opportunity here. Like, I got to let him run after it. So I went and worked there, and within, I think, my 4th month there, I made $18,000, and kind of kept around that number for the first year that I was there. And so I just kind of fell into this opportunity. But it was really, I think that was a product of personality, and I think it was a product of work ethic. It was very, like the very, very little of it was actually a product of skill.
Right. And
I think that's like the big swing that people have. So, to kind of take you down through the valley part of the story, was 20 years old at the time, 20 years old, making $20,000 a month. You make stupid decisions. So I blew all my money, was going out to the club all the time, started partying, doing drugs, hanging with the wrong people, blah, blah, blah. Spent like 2 or 3 years just kind of, I ended up quitting the job, on unemployment, like was turned into a total loser, like complete loser. Like, if you can imagine at 20 years old, somebody coming out, they're cracking down $20,000 a month in income, and then they go to the complete opposite within like a year, to where I'm living with a buddy, can't pay him rent. He's letting me live there for free. I'm, on unemployment. I'm using the money that I get from that to buy bags of weed, and, just complete and total loser. And I ended up moving from San Diego to Austin because my dad had gotten a job out there. So I left because I knew that I had to get out. You know, like there was a moment where I was like, dude, you're a bum. You're a loser. You had so much going for you.
So you recognized it. It wasn't something where you were rolling and then you just went to that life and just were, were cool with it, but you realized there was an issue at some point.
Yeah. I mean, like I slid, it was like sliding, you know, and then I turned around and I was like, really, I'm like out of money now and I'm on unemployment and I'm like, whoa, like what happened? It was like 2 years of my life, 3 years of my life, just completely blurred. I was, doing anything possible to get money so that we could go on a trip to Vegas. And then I was broke. And I mean, it was just so bad. And I remember just getting to the point where I was like, man, this sucks. I hate my life right now. I hate myself right now because I feel like a loser. I know I'm capable of so much more and I've just got to get out of this environment to see if I can like get back some of that momentum. So I think that was at 22, 23. Moved to Austin, lived there for 2 years. Moved back to San Diego after 2 years because I felt like I was starting to get some momentum back, but went to work with a buddy of mine. Hated that job, but it got me back to San Diego. And then my dad sent me a YouTube link from this guy named Grant. And this was in 2009, I think. So at the time, Grant didn't have, his personal Facebook page, about 25 videos or something like that on YouTube, like, no Instagram. I mean, this was pre-Grant being who Grant is. But he had this little spiel and I was like, man, this guy reminded me that I had something inside of me and that for a moment, I ended up watching every video on his YouTube channel in that one afternoon that I got that link. But I remember the feeling that I had was that feeling back when I was 20 years old and everybody was like friends, parents, like everybody I was around was like, dude, how are you making all of this money right now? Like, my parents weren't, rich or wealthy, and I didn't have like rich or wealthy friends. And, like all of our parents, like they made money, like 100 grand, 150 grand, maybe 250 or 300 grand or something like that, like in that range. So, not broke, not wealthy, not wanting for a whole lot, but like not rich, not like
right.
They still had jobs, and they were seeing this 20-year-old kid. And I remember feeling this, like, it was like this euphoric feeling because I was like, I'm knocking down big checks. I love the job that I'm doing. I'm driving around my little car all day. I'm out in the field. I'm going in and I'm seeing people. I'm working my accounts. I'm busting. Like, production was tied to effort and income was tied to production. And so all of this started working. And I was like, it was like an ATM machine was spitting money out. And I was just sitting there, just like holding.
Right.
And I remember the feeling of how great that felt, right? Because I had money and I could spend money on things and I could do things. And at that time, I just chose to spend it on the wrong things, right? And do the wrong things and make the wrong choices. So I remember after I watched those videos from Grant, I was like, wow. Like I was re-inspired and I was like, dude, you've got this. And then I was like, you got to go work for this guy. So then I went through like
that way. That's what your dad said, or you were telling that to yourself?
No, I was in my head. I was going.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I was like, I got to go work for this guy. And so I started blowing the office up. Month and a half, I followed up with them, figured out who everybody was in the office. They all knew who I was. And then ended up getting a job, and I guess the rest is history. But that's actually when I learned how to become a salesperson because, before the ad job, I was in retail, meaning people come to you. Like that was the source of the majority of the income was sourced from people that came to the dealership. Then when I was selling advertising, I really had a book of business. I mean, it was like, and the same people for the most part ran their ads every week. It was a weekly publication. Back when Auto Trader still had printed books, right?
Right.
So I was like out in the field working my accounts, and then it was like I could work the existing account and get them to spend more. We had such high penetration. There really wasn't a whole lot of additional opportunity in my market. But
Now, did your dad hear of Grant before the videos, or did he run into the videos and send it to you right away? Do you remember that?
well,
Or was he following
he's
it
been
a
in
little bit?
retail for a long time, and Grant's been a trainer for a while. So I had actually heard the name before, but I never looked into it. Like I never looked into it. I never, and so I had heard one of the other sales guys one time mention the name Grant Cardone because he used to be in the car business, and he went to one of Grant's seminars. He said, dude, yeah, that guy's good. And then I never did anything with it. And then, years come back around and I'm like, I can't believe I'm working for the guy right now. Right. Interestingly enough, the same guy that told me that name, and I must have been 18 at the time when he said this. Like, this was going way back. And he said, yeah, that guy Grant Cardone, he's got some good stuff, whatever. And I just completely blew past it. That same guy, I remember before I left to move to LA to go work for Grant, and I told him, I said, hey, I'm moving to LA and I'm going to work for Grant Cardone. And I remember he was sitting in the office and he goes like this. He goes, oh man, dude, training's a tough sell, dude. Like, training is going to be tough. Same guy that told me his name. Interesting story. And then I got up there and dude, it was brutal. Like, cold calls, selling training.
Well, so he was right. He was right. It's not.
No, dude, it's brutal. Training is tough to sell.
Yeah.
But like I got up. That's actually why I say that's when I learned how to sell, because now I had to create interest. I had to build a pipeline. I had to identify a prospect. Like, I had to figure out all of this stuff. And Grant, I didn't get much direction or help from Grant. Like, Grant wasn't who he is today back then. So most businesses that I called up, they had no idea who Grant was. So it was like, I had to sell them on that. And then I had to sell them on me. And then I had to sell them on what we were doing. So, it was hard back then, man. It's right. I laugh sometimes because it's like, these guys are bitching about how much money they're making. And I'm like, dude, you have leads. Like, you have leads, you have names and numbers. I didn't even have names and numbers, dude. I had to go freaking make my own lists. I had to Google people's businesses to find names and stuff and then dial them. I didn't have a speed dialer, a predictive dialer. I had to go through and like one by one peck on the dial and make the calls. You know that. I mean, you've been in the mortgage business for a while. I mean, I used to call title cards when I sold mortgages for like 4 months. And I used to get these little title cards. It was like an index card with like an envelope sticker, and it had a name, an address, and a phone number. Yep. It was like, make 600 calls.
Yeah, I mean, and what we did, we would go after realtors when we first got started into the purchase game out of the refinance business, and we would go after cold calling realtors, had no idea who the hell we were, and they're like, nah, yeah, whatever, I'm good. And half of them don't do a lot of business anyway. Well, I would say more than half of them don't do a lot of business anyway, but they act like they do, and so you're calling people thinking that they do a lot of business half the time, and they're not qualified to really send you any business in the first place.
Yeah.
But the cold calling of that when we weren't known is complete night and day difference than it is now.
Yeah.
I started to focus on getting known. And that really, honestly, probably, I would say in the last 4 years, and then hyperspeed this last 18 months since I've been turned on to Grant.
Yeah.
Everything's moved faster since 18 months ago. Hyperspeed. Yeah. So now we call agents, or they call us now.
Yeah.
And it's so I relate to that a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's so much better. It feels so good when you're known. So getting known, Grant talks about it all the time, man, getting known. And so I'm obsessed in the morning times. Back in the day, people used to get on me about being known. Like, you don't want to be known. Come on. What are you doing? Stay under the radar. And so now I'm obsessed with being known, and not for the reason of just for C-Roc to get known and people know who C-Roc is. It's all about this movement and our business. And I understand that now. So I'm obsessed in the morning. Every morning I wake up, okay, what can I do differently today? Or what can I do more of that I've done that's working just to get known and more people to find out who I am? And it just blows me away. Now I'm trying to teach everyone this around me.
Yeah.
And they still think I'm crazy. But that's the hardest thing. So when you did that, and then you started being around Grant and learning this, and then starting to think about that massive mindset, because 10X didn't come out at that point when you were there, right?
No. The book hadn't been written yet.
Right. But that massive action mindset was there, right?
Well, that's just Grant.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So when you started doing that and buying into that and then starting indoctrinating yourself into that, did you notice that people around you back then were like that as well? Like, what, you really want to work that hard, or,
oh,
be crazy like that?
I had to stop hanging out with people, man. I had to, I had friends that were like, you know, were just like, they unfriended me. They'd message me, why you posting all this stuff? Cause I was posting all the time. Like, I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of time on my hands. I had a whole lot of, you know, when I wasn't at the office working, I was sitting at home, you know, posting stuff, you know, and so like all the time. And people were like, dude, can you like figure out how to get your posts? I remember one of my buddies, he goes, hey man, somehow like I see like when I open my Facebook, every post is yours. Can you figure out how to turn that off or stop doing that? And I was just like unfollow or unfriend at the time, because I guess it was Facebook. And I just unfriended him. I was like, I ain't changing nothing I'm doing because of you. And so that was really like the big lesson there. And even today, self-promotion is a hard thing for me. Like I don't need the light. I don't seek it out. And that's probably one of the things that I still need to work on is really owning that piece of the attention and marketing and self-promotion. I don't own that enough. And, working for Grant, you'd think that I'd be all over that, but
Right. Well, it's at least you acknowledge it and you know it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I feel like that as far as I don't need it or necessarily want it. I'm just so sold and committed on what I want to accomplish with this movement and getting this out to tens of millions of people. Because actually, I think I told you this already, but Pete Vargas, when he spoke on the 10X Growth Con stage.
Yeah.
But by the way, for the listeners, 10X Growth Con happens in February. Last year it was in Miami at Marlins Stadium, and 30-some thousand people, right? 34,000 people showed up. So basically more people than should go to the baseball games, right?
Yeah.
Or Dolphins games, even in the Dolphin Stadium.
Yeah, no kidding.
And the thing is that I was listening to every great speakers and all that, right? But when Pete Vargas came on, and I guess it has to do with the father situation, because my dad gave up on me when I was 11, threw a $100 bill at me, said, here, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother. And that moment changed my life. Different course, 11 years old, young age, but I was real mature at that time and decided that. But that hit me because and it felt like everybody in the stadium disappeared. And it was just Pete talking to me.
Yeah. So
that came from, now I was already involved with, the Grant Cardone thing. And
yeah. You were on Cardone U. Yeah.
Yeah. But when I heard him talk like that, and I understand that you guys met with Pete and understood what he's trying to accomplish there and how he's going to deliver from stage and how he can sell from stage, but connect with people. Mm-hmm. That put me on a different mission, man. And I said, man, my story, which I thought was ordinary because I didn't know, I came from a broken home, never knew my parents together. I didn't know any different. I mean, I think that's nobody wants to hear about that. Then I started sharing my story to people. And instead of people being like, yeah, whatever, dude, or yeah, that's a great story, bro. It wasn't like that. People started like, wow, man, it really hits me hard, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm onto something here. And that is when the fire got lit, along with massive action and in alignment with our business. And then now it's on, son. I've always been an animal, Jarrod. So one thing I always say that you guys have done for me is given me the okay to act like an animal.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a cage and contained because people I felt isolated when sometimes I felt like this. And nobody else was like this around me. Mm-hmm. And, somebody would say, well, yeah, don't be so hard on them. They're going to leave. Don't hold them accountable to that. I mean, they're doing okay.
Yeah.
And I would be fighting with that and conflicted. And I turned that off. As soon as I saw that Grant was saying what he was saying and you guys are all bought into it, it's working. I see all this stuff and I'm like, man, it's on now, son. I'll do this shit by myself if I have to, because I know how to do it. It's the right thing. And I'll start adding one person with the right mindset if I have to. You guys either get on board or hit the road. And ever since then, man, everybody, you think people would get like annoyed by that, or all of a sudden they love it. They crave it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Man.
Well, you just start drawing in the right people, Yep. We had a guy in here that interviewed this morning, flew all the way out here from San Diego. He's getting ready to move across the country. He's like, man, dude, I walk in here and I just feel something different. It just feels like this is the thing that I've been looking for. And, I haven't felt this type of camaraderie. I've been here for 3 hours and I haven't felt the type of camaraderie in this office since I was in the Marines.
Yep.
So that makes a big difference when you're in an environment like that, where everybody's on the same page and they're all pushing for the same thing and they all want the same thing. Like, It's got to be like in the top 5 most important things that you can have if you want to be successful. There's a handful of people that are like savants and go off and tinker in the tool shed by themselves and do, miraculous things. But the people who truly succeed in a big way have a lot of people around them, and they're all bought into the mission and the vision, and they help push. And those magnetic leaders are the ones who can get everybody rallied behind them. And instead of one person pushing, you got 185 people pushing,
Right. And so like it goes back with our mortgage company. We had I've only been at 2 companies. The first one that I was with, Universal, it basically crumbled. We made some money. We had some success. And I wrote a blog about this. You can have success for a short period of time without culture. But if you don't get the culture right at some point, it's going to crumble because that culture is your foundation.
Yeah.
So when we went to this company, Nations Lending, they have the best culture mortgage company I've ever seen. But we lined up and said, look, we got to have our culture right. This has got to be the first step. If you're on it, you're on it. If you're not, hit the road. Let's go. This is the first step. And then we built around that. And that's the biggest advice I can give anyone trying to build a business is the culture is your foundation, man. And one thing too, gratitude is a big deal. Not just like people have gratitude moments in the morning, which is fine. If you're not feeling right, hey, look at all you have and be grateful. But we had an issue, and I want you to speak on this. We had an issue with our processing staff that processed the loans, having some animosity towards the producers that make most of the money. And they would think that they're doing most of the work, the processors, and they're doing the busy work, right? And they didn't feel appreciated. And so that created some animosity at our past company. So what we did recently, I read this book. It's a brand new book out, Trillionaire Coach or $1 Trillion Coach. I love the title. And it was about Bill Campbell, who was a football coach at Columbia. And he is the business coach, or was, he passed away, but he was the business coach for the founders of Intuit, Google, Apple, and nobody knew him outside world. He was their business coach. But one of the things he talked about, he started sales meetings with gratitude. And everybody, so what we've done now, every week, we have role play every day with the sales guys, sales meetings, but once a week we have the whole company meeting. And we go around and share something that happened the previous week and name one person, something that they did above and beyond. And so what we've done now is create a culture of gratitude between the sales staff and the production staff. And now the processors run through walls for our production staff, which is I've never seen before. So I just implemented because of that. And I wasn't quite sure of it because, you go to the Thanksgiving dinner and people do that and the kids are like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So it might be corny, but the next week people were naming me and thanking me for bringing and introducing this gratitude exercise. And so I don't know how we're going to do it as we get bigger. We'll have to figure out something because we're growing like crazy. But it's been something that's been awesome. And I want to, how do you guys handle that? Show people that are appreciated from different departments and what have you that work together.
Yeah. So, I mean, acknowledgement is a form of compensation. And particularly in our group, when Grant gives somebody an acknowledgement, that's like a really big deal because so many people look up to him and admire him. But that's certainly a part of what we do. Every morning we start our day off and we talk about what's working in the departments, who's getting deals. We talk about successes that clients are having. I mean, you've been in our meeting, like the whole meeting is all about all of the great things that are happening with our customers and that we're doing as a company. And we start every day like that. And we did that when we had 15 employees and we do it now that we have 180 employees. Does it disrupt the morning? Yep. But is it worth it? 100%.
Yep.
So, it's just that's one of our non-negotiables. That's one of our pieces of our culture that, we've built in and that we'll continue to perpetuate as we grow, no matter how big we get. We open another office, we're going to do a carbon copy of what we did here. So
why not? It works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then what about this? So we deal with this as we grow, we add new people and you got to indoctrinate the people into the culture, right? And you got to set expectations properly. And I'd like to hear how you guys handle when, I have some new employees come in and we were very transparent and open and it's like, look, this is what's expected here. And if you don't do this, you can't work here. But emails going back and forth sometimes, and they're not as nice as they should be, or there's some really smart ass emails that come sometimes from newer people that don't. And the mortgage business gets stressful, but
yeah.
I'm a hammer on this, man. I'll get right on there and just like, look, this is not happening. And I nip it in the bud right away. And some people are like, well, geez, man, you don't have to be that hard. I'm like, yes, we've worked so hard to keep this culture to where it is. And you guys don't know what I've done at nighttime sometimes when we were just getting started, the sacrifices that I've made to get this to where it is right now.
Yeah.
And you're not going to ruin it. So, but do you guys have any of that ever happens with new people that come in, or is the Cardone name just so good right now?
New people fall in line or fall out very quickly. Mm-hmm. They either come in and are like, yo, this is not for me, or they jump in.
Yeah.
And, we fire people. We're not afraid to fire people. We don't do like public executions, but, if somebody's not falling in line with what we want and need and expect, then we get rid of them. We don't feel bad about it. We hire a lot of people, and fire a lot of people, like it's part of the game. But making sure that we have the right people, certainly if people are counterculture against the culture that we have, or not participative or something like that, they're warned and then they're removed.
Right. So you give them a warning, not just when you first hired them and saying, hey, this is what's expected. And then if you do, there's no tolerance policy for attitude here, and then roll them first time.
Yeah. No, I mean, we'll write them up. We'll write them up, once, and then give them another written final warning, and then smoke them after that.
Yeah.
I mean, or, if somebody does something that you can do whatever you want, dude. You're an employer. It's at will. You can do whatever we want here. So if somebody comes in and they do something that we don't like, and it's just a bad indication of who they are. Right
off the bat. Right. Yeah. We have a culture now too, where people call each other out with it, and it's kind of like self-policed.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Same thing for us, really, with our sales team, like when things are going on back there that don't jive. Right.
So let me ask you this. So we're doing a mentor thing right now, and you started a second mentor program, which is a weekly call where people get on a Zoom call and network ahead of time. You guys are so gracious to turn it on early. People can talk and connect early. Sometimes you guys even pop on early, which is awesome. Grant pops on, goes overtime, over delivering value like he always does. And, when I first started seeing the cost of things, my mind wasn't right. And I'm thinking, they charge what? And then you start seeing the value that comes through from Cardone.
Uh-huh.
I'll say Cardone Enterprises, because every area, you guys always over deliver value. It's just, it's and I know what the end game is, to help people. And then obviously the money follows, but it's a wonderful thing to realize that, my first impression and a lot of people's first impression is, man, that's a lot of money. And they don't think about the value that's being added until they actually see it. And it's an awesome thing, man. But that mentor call shows it. And that's what's going on right now that we're involved with.
And we're going to keep doing those because it's, people like it. There's going to be a lot of people that are in this one that do the next one. It provides them a place to connect and create community and, get access to Grant, in a more
intimate,
in a different format, than most people have access. Like long form format where, he's not on there every call, and he's not on for the whole call every call, but he shows up almost every single week for some period of time and just, show some love to the crew. And that's just who he is. We try to tell him, like, Grant, dude, you don't have to give so much. Like, if you showed up like he promised, if you, like, in the deal, when we said, hey, he's going to show up once a month and do a Q&A for the entire session, dude, he's been on there almost every single week, like for the whole call. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that's just who he is. He just can't help himself, but to do that. And when he sees all those people, 400, 500, 600 people on a call, and, we're bringing people in and he's learning more about people and he's hearing their stories, like, it's the most inspiring thing for him. Like the product of what we do really is having folks like you who are massively successful with the content and the programs, the training, like that's the single mom who finds a way to increase her income, the you know, the guy or the gal that, you know, is making a little bit of money, but their parents never had any, so they don't know what to do with the money. And then, you know, they start investing in Cardone Capital, and now they're a real estate investor generating cash flow with their investments. And, you know, like he just gives the ability for people to access things that they may not have accessed otherwise. Like I would never know what I know about making money if it hadn't been for Grant.
Right.
Because I got to see what a guy making big money did. Like, you know, who makes 40 million bucks a year that isn't an actor or, a superstar, whoever, music or whatever. Like, dude, what does that look like? What does it look like to not do that, to not be an artist and make that kind of money? Well, dude, like I get to watch it. Like,
right.
I get to see the conversations, the way opportunities are looked, the level of activity, the level of commitment, the level of obsession, like, you know, and these are things that are available to everybody. Like, you know, Grant's not the most book smart person in the world, but he knows how to make money. Like you can have every degree you want, but at the end of the day, you got to figure out how to make money. You got to monetize it.
Right. Right.
And so for me, it was just, it expands your thinking. Like Brandon Dawson talks about the lids, like the law of the lid, that you can't get above the thing that you're at your capacity with. And you need to find other people around you to connect with who are beyond where you want to go so you can continue to learn from them. Like drafting, like in that movie Days of Thunder, you know, like they're drafting the cards, you know.
You're not going to believe this. You just said Days of Thunder, and Richie Dolan just said Days of Thunder. He had a Days of Thunder reference in his podcast guest appearance here. So I don't know if you guys have been having meetings about Days
Are you
of Thunder,
serious?
Tom Cruise. I swear
Oh
to God.
my gosh. That's one of my favorite movies ever, dude. Every time that's on, I have to stop and watch it.
And also mentioned to him, I'm gonna throw him under the bus for a second. We were talking about golf for a minute, and I'm like, yeah, Jarrod's got a pretty good swing. And he goes, really? And then I think he caught himself, and he's like, whoa, let me clarify. Really, I meant really like, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because Jarrod's good at everything, but he, you know, if golf takes like, you know, a nice smooth swing, I think Jarrod would go after it real hard and all that. So yeah, but the Days
Dude,
of Thunder,
I got a smooth swing. I got a butter swing.
No, speaking of that, I got to talk to you about this golf ball that you lost. We got to talk about abundance mindset instead of scarcity mindset. So, you know, I know golf balls cost $4 or $5, the ones we play with, but Yates and I were up when we played 200 yards up. And 10 minutes later, you're still looking for that Pro V1 or whatever you lost in that water. And
well, yeah, dude, because when I get locked on something, I'm just like, dude, I want to figure it out, you know?
And every time you see that iguana dam there by the water on Instagram, I always think about that ball being lost.
You know, like and then because it's less about the fact that it's $5 than it is about the fact that, dude, I saw the ball roll in right here. And if you remember, I found it. But I was trying to scoop it out with my club, and my cart was all the way on the other side of the deal. My club was there, and the way that the lake was set up, it had like a lip underneath. So I was scooping the ball in, and it was just rolling under this lip. And I was so frustrated because I was trying to get this freaking ball out of there.
And we were like, hey, man, we're running out of daylight here.
Yeah.
So I had on the mentor thing, I want to go back to that for a second because a couple things. I want people to think about this. If you're in Cardone University or if you're just looking into Cardone and whatsoever, one of the things of the mentor, I have 3 or 4 people that have gotten into it now in the second round of the mentor call. And their feedback to me was, wow, man, Jarrod and Grant and Brandon and Rick, I mean, they're actually on there talking live to us, man, instead of just having Cardone University or just seeing – and that the intimacy is huge. Yeah. And and then the other thing is the networking. There's people that are above me and below me in their journeys. Yeah. And so it's cool because there's people that can help me, and then there's people that I can help. Yeah. And it's an awesome thing. I mean, I met a publisher that's going to be publishing the book, the What Are You Made Of book that's coming out mid 2020, which I do have a date, brother. I do. I heard you saying that. You got to have that because otherwise you're not going to write. And I met some awesome people that are just supporting this movement. And, you know, you guys have been fantastic with the fact that you uplift people, even if they're trying to do a similar thing to you guys of lifting people up and helping them.
Yeah.
You got to support people like that. And that's huge, because sometimes people will be like, I don't want to, they might be competition. But we don't really worry about competition when we're on the 10X mindset. We worry about dominating. And if we're all thinking that, we all win.
Yeah.
So, all right. One other question here I want to end on here. Well, two more. One is the novelty of working with Grant. So you didn't really have the opportunity to, prior to working with him, see what he's doing now and then go work for him. But
right.
You still saw the videos and you thought, man, this guy's got something. But was there ever a novelty, first of all? And if there has the novelty worn off with like working with someone so awesome as far as what he does and all?
I don't think I had, like, one of the questions that they asked me, they're like, do you know who Grant is? And I was like, nope, not really. I mean, like, except for what I've learned in the last, 3 days, I don't really know a whole lot about the guy. Whereas now people that we hire, they follow Grant for years and they're super fans and they know all the material. And then they're like, I got to go work for this. So they come in a very different thing. And then they see him walk through the doors, and because he's a celebrity now, like he's a freaking star.
Right.
And, for me, like, that's never been the interesting thing about anybody. Like, I'm not the type of guy that needs to go snap a picture with so-and-so because they're in the room. Like, like.
Now, you're not just saying that to sound cool, right?
No. Like, it's not.
Speaking from the heart here.
It's never been anything that I've been super like, oh my gosh, I got to go get my picture with this person. For me, it's like, oh wow, hey, there's so-and-so. That's super cool. Like, if anything, go up and just say, hey, what's up, man? I love what you're doing. Appreciate what you're doing. Or you're freaking amazing. You probably hear it all the time, but like, I don't need to get a picture with them. And then like, but to acknowledge somebody for being, remarkable, I think is definitely something that people should do always. But for me, it was like, I recognized something in Grant that I wanted to learn from. Like, I was like, this guy, he's got some swag. He's got some game. He's got a lot of confidence. It seems like he's making a bunch of money. When I interviewed at this big house in LA, and I was like, wow, this guy's freaking, they're probably the richest person at the time. And he was he had the 10th of the money then that he does now, and that's how I came in. So it's like, for me, I guess it's like, like you hear like these rappers or these actors, these big actors who have their friends that they grew up with. And they're always, that same friend, like, it's just the things around have changed. And so for me, like, Grant is the same Grant that I knew when I started working with him before the whole world, knew who he was.
Right.
But every single day there's novelty in the way he continues to set a great example for everybody, the way he continues to reach for more. I mean, that's the novelty of the whole thing for me, is just being able to witness somebody who literally has it all, but is so committed to their purpose and what they, on a different level, that he just continues to go and to go and to go. And if he didn't make another dollar the rest of his life and just had what he has, he could, he's got enough money for generations. Like, he's created generational wealth that somebody along the way is really going to have to mess up to destroy.
Right.
And, that's the novelty of working for Grant for me, is just being close to somebody. You're seeing greatness every day. You're seeing somebody continue to reach for more. It's not because Grant has, 10 million followers and he's, got a jet. It's because I get to see a side of Grant that very few people do. And I know how connected to the purpose he is. And people go, how does he do so much? How is he everywhere? Like, they wonder how he does all of the things that he does and why. Like, why does he do so much? Why does he keep doing this? People keep asking why. It's because when you believe that you have been blessed or empowered with one of the most powerful talents in the world and one of the most impactful skills that you can transfer to people that allow them to change the course of their life. It goes back to what I was saying earlier, like you're standing at an ATM that's just spitting out money. And it's like, I don't ever want to leave. I don't ever want to stop because I love what I'm doing. The work that I do is rewarding. It's not easy for sure. Like it's hard more than it's easy because he continues to set new targets and goals for himself. So it's never like we set back. It's just like there's always the next challenge and we never hit cruise control. And so for me, you know, that's the thing that I admire and that's the thing that I'm drawn to. And, you know, like I said, meeting celebrities, doing this, doing that, I could care less about any of that stuff. If I had 0 people following me, I could care less about any of that. What I want to be connected with is my purpose, how I can fulfill my purpose and impact people and help people. Since I was a kid, I always loved helping people. I tried to make friends at school with the people that didn't have any friends. Like I always wanted to be like a connector and I always wanted to like bring people together and I want everybody to be happy and you know, I want to repair people if they're having problems and you know, I've always been somebody who wants to help. And for me, I get so much gratification in the work that I'm doing. It's pretty amazing, man. I'm really fortunate and I'm really blessed and I have a family to share all that stuff with. And so, you know, things are going great in business and in life because I feel like the work I'm doing is meaningful and I get to share it with people that I love. And, you know, I get to make great friendships with guys like you and guys and gals like, you know, the folks that are in the mentoring group and the people that we meet that come to our 10X 360, where we can get in a little bit more intimate setting and learn more about people's businesses. And, you know, like John and Laura from Benefit Hackers, like they've got an insurance company and seeing them come in and where they came in, the state of their business and their relationship when they came in and seeing what can happen when they get the right information and the right things moving together and the transformation they've had. Both of them have been in tears every time they come here because they go through these cycles of like, you know, just all the stuff in their business. They just had the best year they've ever had in the 18-year history of their business. And they just started working with us a year ago. Awesome. So like those types of those stories, like you can't give me a check that replaces how that makes me feel. Right.
Yeah, man.
Now, the only challenge is I'm so committed to grinding to do the thing that I need to do to make more of that possible that I don't take enough time to sit back and actually reflect on that.
Right.
And that's probably that's one of the curses of, you know, being future focused is, you know, you're constantly looking for the next thing and you're constantly leaning into the next thing. And sometimes your over eagerness to do that makes it hard to really appreciate, you know, what you've done and where you're at. So it's a fine line you got to balance because sometimes, you know, I don't think you can really, I don't think there's like a lot of, there's not a lot of room for error in this area, particularly because I think that people are either a little too far leaning forward and they just can't really truly be grateful for what's happening right now, or they lean a little too far to the other side and they're a little too hung on to like the past, and it prevents them from going into the future because one of the easy things that people can do to sell themselves short or to give themselves an out is to lean too far over to that other side where it's like, hey, I need to appreciate this and I need to really like be grateful for it. And that becomes an excuse or a reason for them not to lean forward into the next thing, to create more of it. So it's a very interesting like dichotomy of how you have to balance those things. And I know that
I feel that, but yeah. Hey, I feel that all the time. And people say, oh, do you sleep? You know, and you make comments about, man, just take it easy, relax sometimes, man. But I'm so scared to relax. I'm scared to sit back and do that because I'm never going to go back to where I was when we had to switch company. I'm never going to do that again. You know what I mean? And yeah, no, I get you on that 100%, man. That's
I'm never going back to that couch.
Hell no, man.
I'm not going back to that, to having to have people help you because you're unable to help yourself, so.
Right. And all these people that say that to me weren't there when I was breaking down in my kitchen in front of my wife when things were just crushed, man. Yeah. And I had 22 people, employees and their families, like the weight of, they weren't there. So what they say now about calming down, listen, go do your thing or get on the train. Come on, let's go. Cause I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
But, hey, so these two questions here, and then I'm going to get into anything that you want to plug, but number one biggest thing that you learned from Grant? You might have covered a little bit already, but what's the number one thing that you would say the most important thing that you learned from him? And I got one follow-up question to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a tough question to ask because like on the mentor call last night, we're talking, we put these mentoring programs together where every week we coach on a topic. And I gave the analogy of, it's like if you picked up a blackjack book and you ripped a random chapter out of the book and read what was just in that chapter and then went and tried to take the casino on, like you're missing a lot of information. So it's really hard to narrow it down to one thing, but the thing that usually comes to mind is I've always been a little hard on myself, I think. And one of the things that Grant talks about is being, accepting responsibility for the things that are going on around you. And I think that really was like, I couldn't figure out why I was hard on myself. I wasn't aware. Like I wasn't, it just felt like I would get bummed out when I wouldn't get what I wanted, no matter if it was in school or if it was in sports or whatever. Like I was just always really determined to win. And when that didn't happen, I was always like really hard on myself. And, Grant was like, dude, if you refuse to accept responsibility for something, then you can't have any control over the outcome. And that was the thing. It kind of like gave me permission, but it also put into words something that I could look at and think with and live with, where when opportunities came up to create an excuse or a reason to blame somebody else or blame something else or blame the economy or whatever, it was like the thing that's like, dude, accept responsibility for this. Like, and I was going to say like being goal focused, but until you accept responsibility for the outcome of your life, you can't be goal focused.
Right.
So it's like, and until you want to come in and you want to make more money as a salesperson, but you don't want to spend the time, you got to accept responsibility for that. Like, so that's probably one of the top three, I would say,
Yep, I agree, man. That's a life changer for me, man. 40 years old. I heard that. And I'm like, all this time, I really feel like for me, since I've been introduced to you guys, that I wasted, and I talked to Richie about this too, but I wasted 40 years of my life. And now I have short time to make up. I got to get going. But Richie said, all that's built into that 40 years has built you to where you are now, but still not knowing some of these things, like, oh, if I would have known this. Yeah.
It kills you. It's like the story, that Chinese bamboo tree that grows underground for 5 years. And then in a matter of 2 weeks, it grows 80 feet. So it's like, when did it grow? Was it the 5 years or was it the 2 weeks? It's like things that happen along the way shape you. If I wouldn't have quit that job and I wouldn't have had all those struggles and I wouldn't have been broken on unemployment, would the low that I experienced that was so low that projected me to move out, and the thing that I'm running away from all the time, like the thing that drives me to go for the next thing and be smart with my money and hustle and grind and get it while I can, like, would all that be different? I mean, who knows, dude? Like,
right. You don't know.
Who knows? And, I wish that people didn't have to go through drugs or divorces or, issues with parents or mom or dad or whatever. Like, I wish that people didn't have to go through all that and there was just an easy route, but it just seems like, everybody has a story and or something that happens in their life. There's a catalyst for them to do something. And I think that if people are listening to this and they haven't had something terrible happen in their life, because for a long time I felt like that. I was like, Like, I was like, man, my parents are still married. Like, I've got a great relationship with them. You know, we're not broke. I don't want for anything. Like, what's that thing that's just going to, like, how do I get out of this? And my thing actually happened without me knowing it, right? Like, started hanging out, we were popping bottles, having a great time, you know, next thing you know, doing a little drugs, like, you know, like all these things start happening. And then all of a sudden you're at a point where you're like, holy shit, I'm a loser. The train came off the tracks. Like, and you know, fortunately nothing terrible happened, you know, like,
right.
I totaled a car. I was driving drunk and I totaled a car, you know? And that was a wake up call for me too. So, you know, like, you just have to have your eyes open for the opportunity, you know, and hopefully you don't have to have some big thing. And you, maybe the thing you're running away from is the thing that you know, like, you don't want to have anything bad happen to you. And you're aware enough to leverage that as the catalyst for you to flip. So,
well, and what the follow-up question was is now, cause I think teachers learn from their students as well. Right. So what do you think one thing is, if you were to take just one thing for that, of what Grant might have learned from you over the years? I don't know if you've ever thought about this or not.
Yeah. So I'm much more paced than he is. You know, like, I can turn it up and get wild and crazy, but I'm pretty methodical, and like I think differently than he does, you know? And so I think, you know, Grant knows who he is. Like, Grant's not interested in trying to change anything that got him to where he's at. Like, he's self-assured. Like, he knows who he is. You know, he knows where he's strong. He knows where he's not, you know? So I don't know really what he would be like. Yeah, you know, hey, I've learned this from Jarrod, but I know that on numerous occasions, he, you know, like, the way I react and respond to situations, like, he's been like, man, how do you stay so mellow and chill and even about this? And I'm just, you know, so maybe that's it. I don't know. You know?
Yeah. All right. Well, I didn't know if you've ever thought about that before. So, hey, listen, I'm going to have this, I'm going to get this thing out sometime at the end of January here. And we got GrowthCon coming up. So when this is out and published and all that, is there anything that you want to plug or get out to the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, Growth Conference, 10xgrowthcon.com, our big annual event. It's going to be crazy. Kevin Hart, biggest superstars in the world are going to be there. Crazy experts in business, awesome networking, like C-Roc's been saying. You get to meet all these folks live. Great education, great experience, great opportunity to connect. You know, any of our additional programs for business owners, 10x 360, our sales deep dive, Cardone licensing, if you want to find a business opportunity within the Cardone brand, Cardone Capital to invest with. I mean, just check out what we're doing, because we've built the company out in a way that no matter where you're at, if you're broke and you're trying to figure out how to earn your first dollar, you've got a company, you're trying to figure out how to inspire and grow your team and grow your sales, or you're a business owner, you're trying to figure out how to double, triple, quadruple the size of your company through systems and operations, or you're trying to figure out where to invest your money. Like, we literally have structured the organization so we have a division that can help you no matter what. Our company's the premise of everything that we do is, how can we help people impact their ability to earn?
And where should people connect with you guys or engage with you guys if they've never heard of Cardone? This is the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I would go to YouTube. That's like that YouTube. Grant on YouTube is like probably our number one source for people that are just like, you know, more than any other channel, YouTube, you know, that there's a lot of content there. You can get caught up on the last, you know, 10 years of what we've been up to.
Perfect. Well, Jarrod, listen, man, I feel a really strong sense of gratitude to you and your team, man. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you, first of all, for helping me, for doing everything that you guys do. And also thank you for coming on the show and providing content, because again, this is kind of, it's a little self-serving in a way too, because I have a library of people coming on here that I can go back to and listen to for myself if I ever get lost.
Yeah.
And that's another way to look at this. So I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to hanging with you guys in Vegas, and I'll be down to see you next week.
All right, brother. We'll see you.
All right, man. Thanks, bud. Thank you for being a part of the What Are You Made Of podcast. So that you don't miss future episodes, please rate and subscribe to the What Are You Made Of podcast on your favorite listening or viewing apps, and follow me on your favorite social media platforms. I would love to hear your stories of past experiences and engage with you further.